Hi again, everybody. It's Dana Booth, National Education Manager for AmeriFirst Financial and Educate to Earn. Welcome to Fast Track to Inspired Speaking, Module 7. We're on our second to the last portion of this really important seminar, Speaking to Inspire Action. Today we'll cover a review of where we've gone. Student learning types. You may not be aware, but certain types of students really and truly learn in different ways, and we have to understand that so we can communicate and, in a sense, be all things to all people. A reminder that this takes work, and work is commitment, and commitment means you will practice. And then we're going to talk about our newest, hottest class, Planning for Agent Success in Action. We've gotten such amazing feedback from this wonderful class, and what's great about it is we've helped so many agents to simplify their life and simplify their plan and be more successful. How did you do with your homework? Did you decide what class you would like to learn? Did you make some notes on slides you don't understand or need clarification on? As I said before, sometimes I will write a slide and it'll be through research, and I won't really understand what I'm trying to say in that slide until I actually teach the class or get feedback from people. So I can imagine you might have questions on slides that I wrote. Number 3, did you practice? Did you practice? Did you practice again, and did you practice some more? If not, go back and do your homework before you see this module, because really and truly, you've got to stay on track to be successful. It's easier than you think to become an inspired speaker, but you've got to follow the steps. Again, to revisit and review is a technique we use in class to accentuate a point and embed it in the student's brain. And that's what I'm doing here with you. Hearing something for the first time sometimes has no effect on the student. It's been proven that we have to hear things 3 times to get the gist of what's being said. So when they hear it again, their brain is ready to accept the thought. So let's revisit and review some points. Remember the law of diffusion of innovation? And it's so important because it's really relating to every single person you come in contact with. In general, our population is made up of 2.5% are innovators. Those are people that are exceptional and quick and leading the way. People like Edison, Tesla, Frank Lloyd Wright, the Wright brothers, Martin Luther King. Those are inventors and innovators. The next 13.5% are the early adopters, and those are people that will be first to try things. 34% are the early majority, and 34% follow the early majority, are known as the late majority, and 16% of everyone you meet on average is a laggard. It is so important to understand that. When an agent has somebody that they've shown 150 homes to and they haven't acted, they probably are working with a laggard. To achieve mass market success, we need to have 15 to 18% market penetration. Now that probably is more useful for a corporation, but what we need to understand is that when we're designing our why, it is something that should appeal to the early majority and late majority. The early adopters and the innovators, as Simon says, we'll trip over those people. They get it. What we have to do is get the early majority and the late majority to understand our why, to understand our reasoning, our purpose, and to buy into what we believe. Innovators want to be first. Early adopters are comfortable making gut decisions. The early majority will not try something until someone else tries it first, and the late majority follows the early majority. The laggards, well, the only reason they do things is they're forced to do it. So inspire the innovators and early adopters, but appeal to the mass market, and you will be way ahead of the game. So I dragged out a couple of facts that are well known but worth reading. Many surveys have shown that most people would rather die than talk in front of an audience. The top 5 fears we have are apparently fear of public speaking, fear of death, fear of spiders or snakes, fear of darkness, and fear of heights. Confronted with the option of dying or speaking in public, we would rather die on the average. The point is, speaking in public and the fear of it is a major issue. We are not alone. It is common to think that we are, but it's very natural and normal to have a fear of public speaking. Incredibly, 75% of us experience speaking in public, fear at some time. 25% of us have issues now, and millions suffer. So it's very common to most of us, and it's very easy to get over. It takes work, but you can get over it. So those of you who have no fear of public speaking are in the minority, but you have a leg up on the rest of us. Either way, to go forward, you need to commit to your craft, create your why, practice, practice, practice. Commit to your craft because you've got to decide to do the things and take the steps to get out of your comfort zone to move forward. To create your why because then you'll be impassioned and you'll be inspired every day to move forward because you're going to need that to practice, practice, practice. So you need all three to be successful. So let's talk about student learning styles. So in every crowd you talk to, every group, even if it's 3 or 4 people, people learn at different levels in different ways. First, we have the structural learner, then the solitary learner, the social learner, the auditory learner, and the visual learner. So let's talk about those student learning styles and understand them a little bit more. The structural learner is the traditional learner who learns the old school academic way. They love for the instructor to follow the structured presentation. They'll tell you to go back a slide or, hold on a second, I didn't quite get that. Can you go back 2 slides? They want all the handouts to match the slides. And they take copious notes. So if you hear anybody saying, I'm lost on the handouts, where are we? You've got to say to that person, listen, I'm so sorry. I know that it'd be much easier if I put together a handout with all the slides, but we don't want to kill trees, so we're only giving you the bullet points that we feel are important for you to take with you. You'll also find that the structural learner will take copious notes, even copying down things that are completely detailed on a slide. Next, we have the solitary learner. And these people learn at their own speed, almost like they're an island. They might have headphones on, they sit off to the side, they rarely participate, but they're taking in everything you say, and that's important for us to understand. When you read people, understand the solitary learner might not feel engaged to you, but they're taking in everything you say. The social learner are easy to spot. These are people that are the life of the party, very vocal, gregarious and energetic, usually, but they can be negative and combative a little bit too at times. They love jokes and humor, but they're not the best listeners. The auditory learners, as you can imagine, they depend on hearing and speaking and sound bites and what they hear as a main way of learning. They have difficulty with written instructions. They notice audible signals and changes in tone. They might ask you to repeat things as they learn by remembering the sound and not by seeing what's on the PowerPoint. They're very good at writing responses to lectures. The visual learner, ideas, concepts, data, and other information are associated with images and techniques. So they are people that, through their eyes, notice things. Graphics are very important to the visual learner. They remember visual images. Sometimes if you meet somebody that you would say has a photographic memory, they would be a visual learner. They remember by representing images spatially. And they remember small amounts of information. They really rely on handouts. So how do I teach to all types effectively? Recognize the differences as you connect one-on-one, connecting using their style of learning. If you focus on this, it becomes standard procedure for you when you're giving a talk. Give structured learners statistics. Make eye contact with the solitary learners. Use high energy to engage the social learners. Verbally, musically, or sound bites with auditory. Refer to the PowerPoint, charts, graphs, photos with the visual learner, and you'll be a little bit further down the road so you can connect with your energy reach all people in all classes. So make a commitment right here, right now, that you're going to do what it takes to get where you need to be. This is a lot of stuff to learn, but you can watch these slides over and over again, and they're made to be raw and authentic so that you can actually understand the emotion that goes into learning how to be an inspired speaker. The commitment is the biggest thing, because if you commit, it will enable you to have the energy to find your why, to be inspired, and then you can practice and practice and practice. And the real key is anybody can be a good public speaker. Anybody can become an inspired speaker and inspire an audience, but it does take practice. It's not about public speaking, it's about public leading. I believe if you're not presenting, you are falling behind, or at least you're not achieving heights that you could if you were presenting. Getting in front of people, sharing your ideas, being impactful and inspired. Learning how to inspire when you present is easier than you think, but it does take work. It's not the critic who counts, not the one who points out how the strong one stumbles, or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the one who's actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes up short again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcoming, but who does actually strive to do the deeds. Who knows great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat. One of my favorite presidents, Teddy Roosevelt, has that quote. And it's really all about your journey as an inspired speaker. People will take shots at you. They'll criticize you. But you know what? For me, the only people I want to listen to are the ones who are actually up there with the mic doing what I'm doing. Otherwise, I'm not interested in hearing what they have to say if it's just taking shots. Another Teddy Roosevelt quote, "If you could kick the person in the pants responsible for most of your trouble, you wouldn't sit for a month." So have passion, and really, becoming an inspired speaker starts with having passion. It's very hard to have passion, of course, until you find your why. I've spoken to a lot of you, and it seems like a lot of you are waiting for something to happen to you. Just waiting for that time to jump in. Some of you haven't taken any action. Can you imagine what being an inspired speaker could do to change your business? Can you? It could give you more money with less work. And really, folks, that's what I did. That's why I did it, because it was the simplest path of least resistance to success. It took less money, less work, and less of my energy to get in front of many instead of one-on-one. Instead of speaking one-to-one, I'm speaking one-to-many. It can give you the confidence to find the deals wherever you are. When you're speaking about principles, helping agents become better at marketing themselves, exposing themselves, and communicating, you're going to see the transactions where you didn't see them before. It inspires agents to follow you every day. They need you and can't do without you. And overall, the best thing, it gives you better job satisfaction. You'll be satisfied and inspired and not have that burnout tendency when things go wrong for a week or 2 weeks at a time. So in the following pages, I'm going to talk about how to approach and present the class, Planning for Agent Success. This is one of our hottest classes that we have ever had, and it just shows that so many agents are lost out there and need your help. It starts off by saying when you pass the test to get your real estate license, you're not provided the skills, mindset, or knowledge to make you successful as a real estate professional. I go into great depth about this at the beginning of the class. One of the things I'll talk about is, hey, when someone sees that you're a real estate agent with your badge, or hears that you're an agent, or overhears a conversation in line at Starbucks maybe, They always ask you the same thing, don't they? So, you're an agent. How's the market? And we can talk for a half an hour, back and forth with a crowd, on how to answer that question, how's the market? So, we tell the students, we want to bridge that gap from knowing nothing to being successful and knowing exactly where you're going. Really choreographing every day, every minute, so that you are being as good as you can be and successful. We don't believe agents are lazy. We believe that they aren't taught how to choreograph their day, minute to minute, for success. And our aim is to inspire you to make a paradigm shift towards simplicity. Here's something interesting. According to NAR, it's estimated that 75% of all licensees will never close one transaction in their career. Not one single transaction. An estimated 46% of all agents never activate their license and keep it for a long time. We all know the chasm from getting your license to closing your first transaction is vast. Many licensees are never active and never intend to utilize their real estate license. What about the agents whose livelihood depends on being successful? Now, remember what I said. When you're teaching a CE class, it's so important for you to bring your own material and your own energy to a class. Here's an example of what worked the other day. I decided I was going to bring some new energy to planning for agent success. Whether it was I was teaching it 3 days in a row or whatever the reason was, I wanted to add something new. So I Googled business planning, and I had 4 pages of things to share with my class before I even started the class. I found one website that was really talking about how to get an SBA loan. Another one was a financial planner. Another one was, for $359, we'll give you a business plan that'll work every time. And we had a great time with the class on just kind of making a little bit of fun, poking a little bit of fun at planning and how people really are seldom successful in an effective plan and following that plan. Nothing so conclusively proves a man's ability to lead others as to what he does from day to day to lead himself. One of my favorite people, Tom Watson, not the golfer, but the inventor of IBM. A man who built a company and saw the finished product and worked his way back to the beginning. Here's something a little bit textbook, and I'll tell the class that. We're going to go a little textbook here, but I want you to understand that there are some models that if you can take with you and understand the concepts of, you can be successful. Number 1 is to have a plan. You've got to have a plan. The business of real estate is so complicated. If you don't have a plan, it's so easy to flounder. And then the most important thing you can do, what's absolutely mandatory for you to be successful, is for you to take action. You've got to act on that plan. How many times have I seen someone with a 16-page business plan that takes 4 hours to read and they haven't taken any action on that plan? Measure and track your results so that you can decide if your plan is working or if you need to take different action on your plan. Later we'll talk about those two things, having a plan as strategies and taking action as the tactics. Number 4 is be open to change. Be flexible. You've got to be more flexible than your environment. And number 5, something seldom encouraged in our culture, our life, is to ask for help. Here's our agenda. We're going to teach you how to create your why. Again, you see how that relates to what we've been talking about and how important it is for you to be impassioned in whatever you're doing. We'll talk about business planning, why goals are sometimes overutilized and overemphasized. We'll talk about buckets of business, niches, or areas of focus, and how to choose your buckets for success. We'll talk about strategies and tactics, the actual buckets I'm going to choose, what I'm going to do. Am I going to do SEO and blogging? And how am I going to implement that strategy? What are my tactics? What are my day-to-day actions? Am I going to blog 10 hours a week, 5 hours a week? I'm going to time block for those times where I'm going to blog. That's just one bucket, one example. Time blocking your plan. We talk about how in high school we listened to classroom bells and followed them, for the most part. And how, what happened in our life later on when we decided to modify our classroom bells. It's 10 o'clock, it's time for me to start making my calls, and I'm going to put that off, and I'm going to do something that feels better. If we did that in high school, we would have never graduated. It's crazy. So we're encouraging people on just to simplify your life by time blocking and listening and heeding those classroom bells, setting priorities, and really focusing on the important but not urgent items. Is it important for you to prospect, to lead generate? Yes. Is it urgent? No. And as we focus on the important but not urgent items, we will cut down on the items that are urgent and important, the last minute fires and the panics and the lack of planning. Measuring and adjusting our goals and then putting into play and asking them, are you inspired? And if they are, and if they want our help, we're here to help them. So are you looking for some tips and tricks, which is fine? Or might we inspire you to make a complete paradigm shift in your business and your life? So why did you get in the real estate business? And we asked the agent, what is your why? If you want to be good in real estate, you need a good why, because you need to become inspired every day or remain inspired every day to avoid burnout and frustration, to focus on your day-to-day things and how am I doing with following my plan versus this instant gratification of saying, what did I make today? How much money did I make today? Mark Twain says the two most important days in your life are the day you were born and the day you find out why. So what is your why? The more people you inspire, the more people will inspire you. And I won't go through Simon Sinek's why right now, but is it to make a lot of money? Is it to be a servant to my client, to help renters buy, to serve the veteran? You can see that you can talk about any one of these whys for 5 minutes with the class, to help teachers gain home ownership, to help the underprivileged, to have a schedule I can control. Usually in a class, you'll have somebody that actually says, that's exactly why I got in real estate. And you can talk for a few minutes with that person. To serve the luxury home builders, to provide financial freedom for my family, to deliver patently innovative service, to provide a unique client experience. Do you see how on this page and this slide we're getting more inspired as we're figuring out our why? To deliver dreams, to eliminate standard concerns and frustrations, to create a first-class client environment, to communicate in an esoteric way, to provide systems that work and flow easily, and to challenge traditional thinking and systems. Here's some famous whys. Martin Luther King, I have a dream. Apple, in everything we do, we believe in challenging the status quo, in thinking differently. The Wright brothers, if we learn how to fly, it's going to change the course of the world. You can see the link here, Simon Sinek. And during the class, we'll play this 17-minute video. Now, I would caution you to remind your class, or at least forewarn them that we're going to watch a film today. And just say, remember in school when you saw a film, your teacher said we're going to see a film today, how good that felt? Well, be patient. Sit in your seat and try not to squirm, but 17 minutes is a long time to watch a film in a class. Find your why and you'll control behavior and influence your client's behavior. Be more powerful in your sales. Because people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And what you do proves what you believe. Everyone in every company wants a profit, but a profit is a result, not a why. Get beyond the surface why and you'll discover your brand. We've talked about the golden circle, starting with why instead of what. We also want to talk to them about how to position yourself in the business. Individually, part of a team, leader of a team, creator of a team, or broker of your own company. Then we talk about being careful about goal setting. And we read this quote from the Harvard working paper, Goals Gone Wild. For decades, goal setting has been promoted as a halcyon pill for improving employee motivation and performance. We contend that they're overprescribed. And you can read this warning label at your own leisure. And that's what they're talking about. If you're in business to make money, what happens when you have to make a decision that might be unethical but will save your transaction, and only you will know if it's unethical? If money is your only why, can you see how that might steer you in that direction? Alright, so let's talk about some action homework for you. Number 1, to decide on 2 speaking opportunities. Number 2, study planning for agent success and write down 10 questions. This is the end of Module 7. In Module 8, we're going to cover how to find speaking opportunities, a summary of the past 7 webinars, and really to accentuate that I am here to help. I am here to help drive you forward and down this continuum of becoming an inspired speaker. Module 8 will be the final in our series of 8. And remember, one person in the audience could change your life. So keep calm and stay with us. Well, thanks for joining us in Module 7, and we'll look forward to seeing you in Module 8.